All right. Thank you everyone for joining our 3 p.m. session. I'll continue to admit people as they arrive, but I wanted to go ahead and begin. Welcome to the presentation by Dr. Chastity Harper, and this is the title of the presentation is Instructor Preparedness and Role in Student Engagement and Success in Asynchronous Courses. And Dr. Harper is with CTU, Colorado Technical University. And I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Chastity Harper, and it is my pleasure to be here with you all today. And I'm going to be talking about instructor preparedness and role in student engagement and success in an asynchronous course. So that's a mouthful. So the question then becomes, is it me? Am I prepared? And what is my role in all of this? So, as instructors, because I'm thinking that many of you today that are here with me today are instructors, or you're, wanting to be an instructor, or an instructor, or this just seemed like it was interesting to participate in. And I just want to take some time just to go over some things and just talk about how we as instructors, we as faculty play a huge role in student success. Even it's down to the smallest thing. But the key is having us to be prepared and us to be like, okay, we're ready. Because again, when students know that the instructor is all in, then they do better. And how are we to be all in? It's just for us to be prepared. So while we're doing this presentation, this is going to be a very interactive presentation. So I would ask that, come off mute, ask your questions, and then we'll, of course, go into some breakout rooms and we're going to have some fun for the next couple of minutes. So, what are we going to be talking about today? So, we'll be looking at, of course, instructor preparedness. We'll also take a dive into student success. Then we'll go into the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back and just hash out some things to see, hey, what did you talk about in the breakout room, and how does this apply, and what can we take back? All right. So to start with, let's talk about just some basic things as we talk and we look at online education. So online college class enrollment has been growing in the United States over the last 10 years, right? And we even seen that growth go through the roof when we were all had to be online. So just in general, we're looking at it grow. We're looking at how we as instructors play a part in this growth, right? And so it's important to understand that we are in an age that we are all positioning ourselves to just be online to offer the best educational experience possible, right? So a big part of the reason that online enrollment has grown is because of convenience and flexibility. There are so many different situations that students have to take online classes, be it full-time jobs, be it family, be it just at different stages of their lives. They may be taking care of parents, they may be taking care of just other family members, or it just fits in their schedule. And some students don't want to attend those traditional in-seat universities anymore. And so what do? They get involved and they continue their education by attending an online university or just taking all of their courses online. The one thing is that when we look at the enrollment as it is growing, studies have also shown that there's lower student success in online courses and a higher attrition rate due to a lack of connection and interaction in online courses. This is a direct reflection with how those connections are made with instructors when students are not doing as well. While we know that students have to take responsibility for their own learning, as instructors, we have to figure out what is our part in them having a good experience and them continuing, right? Because the goal is to help them be successful. So Kakar Esperatz found or suggested that students find it challenging to stay involved in online asynchronous courses because of the lack of interaction with their faculty, with that consistent instructor faculty presence and that timely feedback. Now, for those of us who teach or provide instruction online, we know that students rely on that feedback. Sometimes they're asking for the feedback before we can even give it to them, right? Before those grades are due. So they need it to help them be successful. And so that feedback means a lot. So this is where we come into play and say, hey, this is how we need to do things. This is what we need to do. But as instructors, what do we need so that we can be successful in giving our students all of this? So if instructors can be effective in their instructional delivery and methods of interacting with students, this could make for a better educational experience. And it could actually cause students to overall do better. And it would have a decrease in course repeaters. Just the magnitude of instructor preparedness, it's a lot, right? When we look at student success. So, when it comes to instructor preparedness, many universities or colleges or institutions provide opportunities to help instructors with being prepared to teach online courses, beginning from the newest faculty all the way continuing to those faculty who are considered seasoned, right? Who have been around the block, but there's still things that they can learn. And universities and other institutions and colleges, they offer some trainings, right? So institutions can start with offering things as simple as a new faculty orientation. I know at CTU, that is one of the things that happens. The first thing the new faculty go through a new faculty orientation program where they are exposed to the platform, where they're exposed to just being a student and just pretty much going through assignment submissions, discussion board postings, being the student and seeing it. This is how it's done. This is what you need to do. And this is how we're going to help you do it. So, faculty are given opportunities to expand their growth using these trainings offered by their institutions, right? Be it through training modules and professional development. So personally, I know that I've adjuncted several universities, and now I am a lead faculty at CTU. I've been through several training modules, and everything is different depending on the university, depending on what they want to give their students. But what it all boils down to is that for those trainings, what we're looking at is trying to ensure that our students are successful, right? Because that's what we all want. We want to make sure that the students do good. And again, and I'll repeat this several times during this presentation. If we are prepared as instructors, if we continue to get what we need, and if universities or our institutions give us or help us reach what we need, we're going to be better instructors and overall be able to deliver our information even better. So let's talk more specifically. So for a specific discipline, there are developmental types of professional development or departmental modules that are offered. I know when I am giving things to my faculty members every week, I offer supplemental things in addition to what they already have. Right. So every week they're getting things that include announcements. They're getting things, outreach messages. And so I also offer something that's called a What's Happening in Science. And if you didn't know, I am a science person. I offer them what's happening in science. And so it gives them a rundown of the week so that they, with being an adjunct, they have, of course, some of them have full time jobs, some of them have other obligations. So I try to offer them as much as support as possible. And by giving them these extra supplemental things, such as announcements, weekly advice, weekly tips, weekly ways to keep their students engaged in their live lectures. And so they get these, and I also offer what I call a Talk About It Tuesday. And so in that, I talk about some things, give them a video just to keep that encouragement there and still giving them supplemental things to help their week be great. So they're receiving a lot of support, right? And then what you'll see in the next couple of slides is how this support can translate to helping students be successful. So again, and I told you I'm going to say this over and over again, when instructors are prepared, they are more confident in their role, right? Because we've all been in a situation, and sometimes we don't want to admit it. We've all been in a situation where we were less confident about things. And when you're less confident about things, you're more reserved in how you present things. And you're like, oh my gosh, am I doing this correctly? Am I giving them what they need? Did I mess up? But when you're confident, even if you make the slightest mistake, you are confident in what you're delivering. Like, okay, this is what it is, and this is how I can get it done. This is what I can give to my students. And so ultimately, what it boils down to is that instructors need that additional support. You know, the training just doesn't stop after that first couple of, introductory little modules that you do when you first start. It doesn't stop there. Right. And so we have to be advocates for ourselves to say, hey, what other materials can you give me? Or, talking to whomever, pushing the university to say, hey, can we have some more of this? Or have we thought about having a professional development series that can help? I know, where I am at CTU, we do a variety of these things, offering, from our departmental meetings, just keeping us abreast of different ways to keep our students engaged. So I wanted to take some time just to show you some things. And when I show you these things, it is to show you that, hey, when we have the proper support, when we have those extra supplemental resources to use for our beneficial to benefit us, to help us grow, we can then translate that to make sure our students are growing, right? So when you look at this, so when an instructor is prepared, and these graphs just simply show that when one of the biggest things that we have at CTU, we have a live lecture, a weekly live lecture, and students aren't required to attend, but it is great if they do. So the thing is, what I wanted to see is what happens, how do we draw those students in? How can we keep them coming back for more, right? And so if you look at this, what it shows is that the number of students over several months did increase in this first bar graph to the right, and then that is the percentage in the green. But you see those drops, and what I want to let you know is those drops signify just different months, right? And those drops are those holiday months, and so students kind of disappear on you around the holiday months in your online courses, and so it's interesting to see. But in all, what I wanted to show is that when instructors are actively engaged, you can see that student participation or the number of students increase. And that goes along with saying that when an instructor is prepared and they are lively and engaged in the live lecture, because it's nothing worse going into a live lecture and your instructor is like not engaging, right? Be it they are not lively, because a student, it's hard to sit there, even for us just sitting here now for like 45 minutes to an hour. Your attention goes from left to right, up, down, but we want to keep students wanting more, right? Be like, oh my gosh, is that what happened? Or let me see, right? And then helping them to explain to them, this is what is expected of you this week. These are your materials. This is what we're going to go over. Right. So when an instructor has tools to figure out, okay, I'm going to try this in my class. I'm going to do some cahoots. I'm going to do some breakout rooms, to keep the students actively involved, to keep them watching, right? To get them to attend. And if they don't attend, at least watch the recording, right? So that's the goal. And if an instructor knows how to do that, then that is great. And these are some of the things that we can be given in professional developments, in supplemental things from our departments. I know one of the things that we have been doing with our students is, well, what I've implemented just to try to get my faculty to do is to do those cliffhangers at the end of their live lectures so that students are drawn in for the next week. So, they're like, oh my gosh, is that what happened? Well, let me see. I've got to find out. I got to tune in for next week, right? And so that encourages students to go, and then them being able to listen and understand what the assignment is about and not doing it in such of a tone, because we all know that tone plays a lot to when we are listening to someone, right? If they are very monotone and they're very just non-engaged themselves, it kind of like makes you feel like, okay, I'm just sitting here. And when they are actively engaged and you see that they're passionate about what they're giving you, then you are more inclined to listen. So in all, this part here, when instructors are prepared and you see, they're very involved in the lesson and they're getting these supplements and they're able to deliver these to the students, the assignment submissions increase, the assignment grades, the average grade increases, and so does the submission time. We know that we go through a time where students submit a lot of stuff late, but if they have that involvement from their instructors. And the key that the instructor may get is to say, "Hey, you know, um, my lead told me to turn my camera on so that the students could see me, right? Every so often. And that way they make that personal connection. There you have it. That's a tool that helps instructors to be prepared, and I know that a lot of instructors, including myself, while we love what we do, sometimes, speaking in front of groups is like, oh my gosh, even if it is your students. But if we're able to just get involved and just, have what we need, and like, okay, we're going for it. The next thing that I want to show you is that this happens when instructors are prepared. Student success increases, right? So again, if the instructor is well versed in the content, if the instructor understands how to even load assignments, because a lot of students get hung up when in their online courses when they're just trying to do the basics of loading their assignments or trying to figure out, well, how do I get to this virtual lab? If the instructor understands that and can give them a demonstration, then that helps with the students feeling better about assignment submissions, right? So in all, course achievement increases, meaning that their grades increase, right? And then of course the grades go. So looking at course achievement and course grades, course achievement being how, course completion. Do students complete the course? Course grades go up, right? If you compare, different semesters or terms or sessions, just depending on how it's set up at your university or your institution. I know at ours, we do it by the session, and if you look at the increase, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that growth. And that growth comes from, again, instructors being prepared. Again, I'm not saying that all of this is put on us as faculty members, as instructors, because again, some of that does fall back on the students wanting to submit their assignments. But as instructors, if we give them the tools that they need to encourage them, to push them, then they are more inclined to do so. But to do that, we as instructors have to be prepared ourselves. Now, when instructors are prepared, again, student success increases. So from that, you can see below or C or below C or withdrawals rates decrease, right? And that's what we want to see. We want all our students to do well, right? If they can get below, they get above a C, that is awesome, right? Course withdrawal decreases. And that's what we want, because if the course withdrawal rate decreases, that means that you won't have students that are trying to sign up for it for a second time. If their grades are increased, like if they're not getting an F in the course or not, failing the course or completing the course, right? Then that decreases the number of attempts. So they're getting it done within their first attempt. And when they do that, you can see that as they matriculate, it kind of like builds a foundation for them, especially in those foundational courses. If they have that strong foundation, they're more likely to excel and complete their degrees. And that's what we want. We want them to complete those degrees. So that brings us to this question. So, what can I do to continue to help my students be successful? Right? What can you do? What can I do? What can we all do? What are some of the strategies that your university or your colleges, your departments, or you personally have come up with to increase student success? So, let's talk about this. And we're going to do that in a couple of breakout rooms. There are 4 breakout rooms. One is going to be about personal strategies implemented in your course. So these are some of the things that you have developed and that you're using in your course, right? And then the breakout room number 2 is university or college department strategies, something that your university or your college has given to you to help with that. And then best practices development, and why are they needed? Why do we need best practices? What sense do they make? And then the fourth room is, why is instructor preparedness critical, and how does it show at your college or your university or wherever, or your institution, wherever you are. And so we'll spend about 15 or so minutes in these breakout rooms, just 15, 20 minutes in these breakout rooms talking. And so what I'm going to ask is that in each breakout room that somebody takes some notes, because we're going to come back and talk, or you could put it in the chat box. And then I'm going to be filling out tables, just 4 key points. I'll fill out a table for each one, and we're going to have these so that we can see what each group talked about. And so the biggest thing now is, who wants to go into what group, right? I think I'm just going to, unless you know exactly which one, I'm going to split you up, because we have about 7 of you all, and I just want to try to get a good, span. If we can have 2 in each room, that would be great, just to talk. And if you get into a room and that's not where you want to be, just come back to the main room and I will place you in another place. All right. So I'm going to start. But before I start, is there anyone who has a preference about what room they would like to go to? Let's see. I see something in chat. Okay. All right. Number 2. All right, Jacqueline, I will move you right over there. And
And
4. Okay.
Dr. Harper,
Yes.
it looks like there's only 4 people besides you and I, so I'm not sure if you
Oh,
want to, it might be more helpful to keep us all in the same
all
room and just
together.
go through the topics.
And that's what we'll do. All right, so no breakout rooms today. So we will just do this just together. No worries, and I can type it in while we are talking here. I'm going to move some stuff around, make sure you all are still seeing this. Okay. All right, so let's do some talking. All right. So since we are going to just can we see the topics again? Of course, I'll put them right back up for you. And you should see them now. Okay, there you go. And then I'll leave them there, and then we will just go through them, and then we can talk through several, and then we'll just have a big coming together at the end. All right. So first things first, let's talk about, let me move this out of the way. Let's talk about personal strategies implemented in your classroom. So, does anyone have any personal strategies that they use and find them useful when it comes to being students being successful in your course, or anything that you have learned from just things that you have received in the past that you would like to share? Well, I guess I can start here. Oh, okay, there's Jacqueline. Hey, Jacqueline.
Hey, hey, yeah, I just wanted to say some universities like mine give some preview time. And preview time, it's when professors have access and students to the classroom before the class begin. So it's a great opportunity to share resources, suggest students to pre-research topics, um, even engage just in introductions and announcements. So when week one comes, students are better prepared, better acclimated, and we actually have some significant connections. And once we connect with these students from the beginning, we know it's easier than to create that trust through the session. So that using that preview week has shown in my institution to be successful.
So you have a preview week.
We have a
Okay.
preview week. Yeah.
Okay. Provides so they get that first experience and they get just to see what they are getting in themselves into.
Exactly. We even open some modules, the modules of resources, textbook, not maybe the gated weeks, but resources, for example, coding manuals, all of that opens during preview week. And students have 1 week, an opportunity to connect with to the professor and to get familiarized with the topics and the materials.
Nice, nice. That's great because just think about how students are if they're seeing, okay, this is what I am getting ready to do so I can prepare my mindset and I can be prepared and ready to go. So that's a good one. All right. I like that one. Yes, Liz. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Hi, Chastity. Yeah, so when we get ready to do our classes, we actually have an open house virtually and run them through how to actually use the LMS. So how to reply to posts, how to upload videos, how to actually partake in the class, because I feel like that's one thing that they really struggle with is if it's brand new, they have no idea how to even reply. So we actually spend time before the week, just like Jacqueline was saying, in order for them to see how to use the LMS and how to actively engage.
Okay. All right. That's a good one too, because can you imagine how it would have been if we would have had, like, just thinking about when we were in school, when you were doing your coursework, just having those opportunities to being able to utilize things ahead of time. Access. Okay. All right. So these are good. These are good. Okay.
I
So
have
we're going to just try to divide our time amongst the other ones too. So let's look at another one. And let me scroll this way. All right. So the next one is now you all have mentioned, so we kind of like hit number one and two together, just some of the things that are being done. You know, your university allows these things to happen, and then what you're doing in your class. So those kind of combine together. Does anybody have any other ones they would like to share?
at the school that I'm at, one of the things that we do is the design, right? Having that design
Okay.
in a way, and the students then also have a course that they can take to familiarize themselves with D2L. So all the instructors are pretty much have these minimum requirements that they have to have in each of their classes just to help those students transition. So everybody's kind of doing it the same.
Okay.
One thing that's coming up with the community college system is just it sounds like a refocusing on regular and substantive interaction. And I think that relates to what the previous speaker said about um, like being familiar with having students be familiar with the design of a course and the way that the LMS works, and then instructors knowing what features to employ in order to make that regular and substantive interaction through announcements and messages and other features in our case that are available in D2L, because if you're wanting to have that regular communication with students, but you're not sure how to best use your tool, it can be kind of a barrier to that.
Right. That is absolutely right. Because when we don't like, so many things change, when especially when an LMS gets an update and you're like, oh my gosh, this just happened last night. I don't know how to use this tool. So it's important that we understand how to utilize these tools and that we have an understanding. So yes, instructors need to have that knowledge of what we are utilizing and how to utilize these things. So this is some great discussion. This is great. Okay, let's move to another point. The next one here. So best practices. So when we think about best practices, we tend to oh, and here's a personal strategy. Let me just pop this one in here. We're going to take a pause for a moment and go back to personal strategy. So Liz said personal strategy is using videos to give quick feedback to the whole class or several students who have had similar things. So I like that because again, when students are able to see an instructor or they can look and you can sometimes tell how things are in terms of when you're seeing someone say it. Sometimes I say, I tell everybody that I know that I hear with my I hear with my eyes because I like to sometimes see what I'm getting or what is going on. And I know that may seem weird, but that's just me. I like to see what I'm getting myself into. So that in itself, that is a good one. So I'm going to just pop that in the box here. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so let's talk about these best practices. Why do you all think, like, what is the purpose? Why is it important to have best practices and why do we develop them? I see
This
you,
is
Jacqueline. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, this is Jackie. Yes, yeah, I was reading recently about the myth of the solitary teacher, something like that. It's with the myth that educators, because we teach isolated from each other, then we don't communicate with each other, right? And creates that the myth that that's effective. But it's when we talk with each other, we can actually first identify what is a best practice based on the outcomes, right? Because if all of us are doing something, but the outcome is positive for all of us, then we know that it's the best practice, and we need to have that conversation. I think my point is a little bit more that educators need to communicate with each other in order to identify and disseminate whatever we decide is best practice in our college or university setting.
You know what? That's a great point because again, in the virtual world, we don't have the time. We're not as talkative as with one another. So being that communication does help. So I do like that. And that helps us to establish some good things, right? And so one of the things that I know that it's another science faculty lead, and we stay in constant communication because we have our faculty meetings together. I oversee the upper level science courses, and the other science lead, she has those foundational courses. But we come together because our faculty are going to see the same students because when they take the 100 level in the general education, they're going to come around and still have to take the 200 level. So we bring everybody together and we discuss ways, we keep them up to date on what's going on in the university. And we also take time to hash out things like, hey, let's try it this way. And we do it together. And that's our way of communicating. And it does help. So, yes, that is very important. Just keeping those open lines of communication. And then Liz is saying we have others on our team who run simplicity for that student. Okay, and you're talking about in terms of having those best practices in line. Thanks, Tammy. We have others on our team that run through our classes to see what each other's creating and ask, oh, I like that. So it's always good to get a second set of eyes on your class, right? Because sometimes they become so, we become so cookbook and we're like, okay, I'm gonna set it up this way, I'm gonna do it this way, I've been doing it this way, and it works. But there might be that one time where you set it up that same way, but something missed, and you're like, okay, well, let's have some another set of eyes to see what's good in here and what can we do. Okay. I'm just taking a note here. Okay. That is great. That is great. Okay, so let's move to our next one, which is why is instructor preparedness important? And I think that this is a big question, right? We all are like, okay, it's important, but why is it important? Um, we all want to be our best, but how is getting some additional ways to help be prepared even better? How does it impact our students? What do you all think? Like, how does your university help to prepare you? And and I can be the first to say I know that in where I am a faculty member, we have a variety of ways to continue to grow, a variety of ways to continue to improve ourselves. We have a thing where we have different modules that we can get additional training. Let's say if it is the fact that, you want to have a better presence, a better online presence in your class, or ways to engage students. So there's a module to help you with that. And then my department chairs, they advocate, or they advocate for us to do professional developments, just different ways in order to be prepared, because with us teaching online, things change constantly. Things change in the sense of, you know um how do we utilize these resources? How do we know what we're doing, right? Because the way that online courses were set up 10 years ago doesn't quite look the same as it does now, right? Because so much more, with more students getting involved, with more students taking online courses, with more students actually finishing their degrees online, we have to examine things differently, because we want them to receive you want to make your online classroom essentially like they were in a face-to-face classroom, like they were in a traditional seat. And so we still have to continue to grow and try to figure out, how do we do that? And we keep pushing, right? So, anybody want to share anything about any ideas, or anything they want to add to here?
I will.
Because I said a mouthful. Yes,
Definitely
Tammy.
having an IT department that when
Okay.
they bring on a new addition that can be, and I'm terrible with the technology side of it, but when there's a new app that can then be filtered into our learning management system, having those people to help us navigate that when it's a brand new system that can be added in.
Mhm.
I think, at least for me in my instructor role, it seems like there's like two generational issues that I sometimes struggle with. And one is potentially younger students being less tolerant to like the messiness that new technology can bring, or if things don't flow easily or instructors seeming distant, um, perhaps because of different experiences they've already had at like in high school or middle school or whatever it might be, and their kind of familiarity with like mainly phone technology being kind of instant messaging and, all of those things. And then for returning adults or older adults who are new to the online classroom, there's just like a lot of hurdles to even, get into the online classroom. So it feels like a lot of the times we're kind of like negotiating between all of these different types and levels of technical knowledge, I guess. So having the instructor like prepared for all of those things seems really important for retention of all demographics that they might be encountering in their classroom.
Absolutely. Because, when you have these courses, like you said, that you have a wide range of students coming in from 18 years old to over 60, and then trying to figure out, oh my gosh, especially when it's in like a 5-week course, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to try to figure out a way to get this to work. Because, like you said, when you have those non-traditional age students and they're coming back and they may not have been in the classroom for like 20 plus years, and they're like, I can't get it to submit, and this is not right. Or you have those younger students and everything you get is in text lingo, and they're just frustrated because it's not running as smoothly. So having instructors to be prepared to deal with both types is very important. And so, like, the preparedness on that part is something that institutions should try to look into, to always have the what if situation. What if this class has 30 non-traditional students, or what if this class has students that are straight out of high school, and so their expectations are different. So yes, this part of us being prepared as instructors is critical into the student succeeding in the course. Hey, Jackie, I see you.
Yes. Liz wrote in the chat room that when we are prepared, right, right, we prepare for the unexpected. So when we're prepared and something happens, right, we can tackle those situations. But I would say, um, uh, circle in what peers have said. Certainly, trust and confidence. Our students are less patient with improvisation. So when we're prepared, and it's because we know once you do something maybe wrong, and you turn, if you turn off your students quickly, your students lost trust in you as the
Mhm.
professional. You are the expert. You're the one who is supposed to have control of the situation. Not that we need to control everything, but I think that increases trust. I like my students when they see me as somebody who is an expert, who is prepared, who is professional. Besides, we're role modeling as well the behaviors that we want these future leaders to have. We want them to be prepared. So I think preparedness is really important in every sense that we have talked.
Yes, yes. This is great, everyone, because there's so much involved in being prepared. And if we can, essentially be prepared in every way possible, I think that of course, the students see it, and we want them to have a great experience. And I like that you mentioned modeling, Jackie, because that is crucial, because we want them to be able to model what they are seeing. And this gives them an overall great experience. So basically, what this slide is talking about here, because we've done a lot, this was a good collaboration, instead of having to go to the breakouts, we have these collaborations going on. What can you take back to your institutions? And I think that we've gone through those takeaways and then the benefits without having to type some here, because there's a lot. And what it essentially boils down to is that we all know the benefit of being prepared. So, what more can we ask of our universities or our institutions to help us to get there? So, just to look at some things, when an instructor is prepared, the student will perform better and has a higher chance of being successful, right? And you all make great points on showing and explaining, hey, this is what happens when we are prepared. Students are going to trust you, right? And they're going to look at it and say, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is how I should do it. And then when we talk about them being successful, Success can be defined in many ways. Some people define success as having that high grade, right? That A or that B. But success can also be looked at how the student is able to take what they got from the course and apply it in other situations, or how they remember things. Because, in a sense, we also want them to be able to relate what they're learning back to their everyday lives, right? We want it to be relevant. So the institution of wherever you are, it is important that the institution support is vital in helping instructors stay prepared. Be it, we always say, well, the institution needs to offer us this, it needs to do that, and they do. If they want to see student success grow, that also shows that, the faculty need that support. Um, the information that we obtained or we talked about today can be useful in your respective areas. So while we all may have different disciplines, we can, all of these things as far as being prepared can be used in different avenues. So the next thing to consider is, how can you continue to grow as an instructor, and how can your university help you continue to grow so that you provide quality instruction? So that is the big thing. How can you continue to grow? And we all want to continue to grow, because again, things are constantly changing in this virtual world that we're living in. Just think about it. We have AI on our doorsteps. So we have to figure out, how is this going to work, and us being prepared, because we're going to have to be prepared to use it, right? There's some shaky ground. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to. Oh my gosh, what if it does this? So we need to be prepared to utilize those things associated with AI. So that is what I have for you all today. Are there any questions? I think that this has been great. Thank you all so much. Again, I'm Chastity Harper. I really appreciate your time today. And that's, if you ever wanted to reach me or talk to me, that's my email address. And by all means, I would love to talk about this, because in all actuality, my dissertation talked about instructor preparedness. So in an online science courses. So if you ever want to reach out to me, that's my contact information, and I would be happy we can continue to talk. Thank you all so much.